explain that we'll take
Good morning. Thank you for being here on Memorial Day weekend. I would like to invite us to start our time together with a prayer. So if you could please pray with me. God of love, we gather this day to worship you, to hear your word proclaimed, to pray for our neighbors, near and far, and to offer the gift of our voices and our words, so that children around the world have enough nourishing food that they will thrive. Amen.
If you've been watching the news, you know this is a very timely thing we're doing today, to be writing to Congress about hunger and food and the legislation that can affect that in so many ways. We had planned this meeting actually in June, and then a date came up in May and things were happening in Congress. So we jumped right in. So thank you for joining us on this holiday weekend. We may be back later in the summer as things are continuing to develop. I want to start by just doing a little run through the Bread for the World website. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Bread for the World. It's a Christian advocacy organization that was started 50 years ago by a Lutheran pastor, Art Simon, and has been functioning since then. I want to run through this. We'll look at some of the issues then. Leif will lead us through some of the issues that are going on right now and lead us right into letter writing, which we hope to be able to do as part of our activity this morning. The thing that happened this week was a budget reconciliation vote in Congress, and it voted for a budget that eliminated, I'm hearing something like $290 to $300 billion that would affect SNAP. So we'll talk more about what SNAP is, but as this slide would tell you, SNAP affects lots of people. I think it's 40 million people in this country will be affected, and maybe I've got the numbers right. I've got lots of 40s in my head. 40% of whatever it is children. 40% of those affected by SNAP are children. So if they're children, we're not going to be able to have enough food. So the next thing I want to do, and Peter, remind me, and if I just click on that, oh, hey, Peter. This is a little bit about what Bread is saying these days. Bread is a Christian advocacy organization. It's not a food program per se. They're not giving out food. They are advocating, urging U.S. decision makers to do all they can to pursue a world without hunger. Our mission is to educate and equip people to advocate for policies and programs that can help end hunger in the United States and around the world. Food banks are also essential, but we focus on advocacy. Why? Because federal nutrition programs provide roughly 10 times as much food assistance as private churches and charities combined. So we can do lots of good things with food pantries, but programs like SNAP does much more. With the stroke of a pen, our government leaders have the power to create policies and programs that impact millions of people at once. Our faith in Christ is the foundation for our mission and compels us to love our neighbors near and far. We are led by the values of our faith to stand up for those experiencing hunger all over. Open your mouth for those who cannot speak and for the rights of those who are left without help, Proverbs tells us. Okay. So that we'll talk a little bit more about this. This is the House reconciliation bill, and this piece was written on May 19th, the vote happened on May 22nd, and it was passed. It was passed by, I think, one vote. So you have on your tables essentially this piece that looks at the issue, and looks at in a little bit more detail at what is lost with the SNAP vote as it is, and also what's lost with the child tax credit package that is included in all this. I've found that looking up the child tax credit online makes it almost sound like there wasn't much effect. But Bread tells us, and their institute is looking hard at things and tells us why the cuts to the child tax credit extension are detrimental. Let's see. I copied this from the Alameda County Community Food Bank. I live in Alameda County, and they sent an email out after May 22nd and told me exactly what had happened. That these cuts had been the result of a vote on May 22nd. It would be the largest cut to SNAP ever at a time when food for remains extremely high. Okay, so go here. Okay. We will talk a little bit more about these issues, but what I hope you're getting from this is that if you go to bread.org, you can look and see a lot about what's going on with hunger issues, up-to-date information, and links to be able to write directly to your senators and Congress members, in instructions about how to write letters if you don't want to do emails. So it's a well thought out and very helpful resource. Okay, I am going to turn this over to Leaf now to talk about, let me stop sharing, to talk about what we're doing today. Not so much.
All right, so we're going to invite you all to write a letter or two or three or many if you'd like today. But why do we write? Well, as Christians, we are called to seek justice, care for those experiencing hunger and poverty, and embrace our Creator's vision of hope, love, and peace. Mary's already talked a little bit about this, but every year Bread for the World organizes communities, churches, people of faith to write a letter together. This really amplifies the power of our message because it's not just one person writing, but we're writing as a community, St. Mark's, with other communities across the country. And this has been a very powerful and very successful strategy on the part of Bread for the World. Your letter matters. They all add up together, and that message is amplified. Now, one of the things that we're looking at today is that they prepare this material months ahead, like in advance, like almost a year ahead of time. They're starting to work on next year's campaign. So the timeliness of what they have in their original letter is 2 requests regarding children, advocacy for hungry children. We're adding an extra petition because of SNAP, because of that recent legislation that Mary just mentioned. Okay, so let's get started. You should have papers, pens, maybe a couple of note cards in front of you. Go ahead and grab one of those papers, grab a note card. If you don't have what you need, let us know. We have additional pens, there's more papers. Everyone can grab something now? Okay, great. So at the top of your page, you're going to put today's date, May 25th, 2025. upper left-hand corner. And then underneath that, we're gonna figure out who we're gonna write to. Now, because that bill that Mary was talking about just passed in the House, we're gonna suggest that you start by writing to your senators today. And as Californians, we're gonna write to either Alex Padilla or Adam Schiff. Those guests from Minnesota. Like Amy Kosher and Smith. Is that your
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. Don't worry so much about the particular address here. We are going to deliver these letters together to the California senators. We'll get you some stamps, Minnesota visitors. And so don't worry about the particular address. You can use this generic one that we have here or that's on the sample letters on your table. So you can just write Senator Padilla or Senator Schiff. So here is Alex Padilla. I have these addresses here for Washington and San Francisco. Don't worry about these. Just use that generic one. But you can write Dear Senator Padilla or Dear Adam Schiff, or you can write two letters. You can write both of them. Any questions about that first part? I'm going to go back up to the generic address. So you can just write Senator Padilla, U.S. Senate, Washington, D.C. 20510. Or Senator Schiff. Yeah? Okay. If you wanted to write to your representatives, we have several representing the Bay Area. Here's a quick list. I can help you find these. The best tool, I think, to find the name and address of your representative is to go to house.gov. You can put in your zip code and they'll give you the name and a link to the website with the address for your representative.
Are we using these letters or are we writing out in the cards?
I would encourage you to start a blank paper, right? So the sample letter on the table is an example, but it's much more powerful if you are writing the letter down from scratch yourself instead of signing your name to a form letter. Yeah. So, I mean, you don't have to make it as long as the sample letter. It can be shorter, but start with a blank piece of paper or a blank card.
If you have a story of your own that it explains why you're interested in this, lead with that.
Yes.
Listening, they like to hear, they're gonna give a lot of stories, a lot of letters that look like this. And that's good, because then you know what you think. But if you have a story, that makes it better. So if you have some little paragraph or a couple of sentences that you can add that talks about your reason for thinking about this.
Yes. For those of you who can't hear, Mary's suggesting that it's as personalized as you can make it, like stories, your personal reason, investment, like that makes the letter more powerful. Was there another question?
Both of our senators in this vote voted against cutting SNAP.
So so most recently that most of our local representatives in the House of Representatives did vote against this legislation. It will go next to the Senate. Even if we anticipate that our senators will vote in the way that we want them, it's still important and powerful to write because that gives them leverage and gives them kind of energy to increase their advocacy for this cause. So even if you wanted to write to your representative to say thank you, like you could for voting against something, that's also like really important. Thank you for voting against the reconciliation bill. Yeah, so even if you kind of anticipate they're already in line with what you're asking for, it's still important to ask.
And they haven't voted on it. The Senate.
The Senate hasn't voted on this yet.
So they probably voted on things, but they haven't voted on this. So we still need to make sure they know what we think.
Also, I used to work with the Alameda County Food Bank, and the USDA provided almost about at least a third of the high value nutritional quality that people received. And that was like in the early 2000s. So the food bank, at least in Alameda County, and I'm sure in other parts of the country, really depended on the USDA food, the high protein food. And so that's being cut as well under the Department of Agriculture.
Put that in your letter, because that's part of what's going on here.
Yeah.
Is that the Congress is cutting funds, and that's why bread is booming.
And this is really going to affect also the food banks, because some of the food banks, you know, they have community contributions, but they really depend on the USDA for the quality foods. And the other thing I just wanted to say is I brought a directory, I have a congressional directory. I wondered if we should write to the Secretary of Agriculture, you know, and other people like even President Trump, because I think it's important for him to hear us as well. What do you think?
I encourage all kinds of letters. I think I would prioritize writing to the people who represent you personally in Congress, because they have the most,
Most accountability.
the most accountability, yeah, to you. Thank you. All right, so let's get started. Just a second, I'm gonna get people started with the first line. So like Mary was mentioning, if you have a personal story or personal connection that you really want to lead off with, that's great. Otherwise, a great start is I urge you, because you're saying specifically what you want the senator to do. And in this case, the general theme of what Red is suggesting for us is to protect and strengthen nutrition programs that help children reach their full potential. So that can be your starting line that you can develop after this line, or you can lead off with a story like Mary suggested. So I'll let people write that. Yeah, I'm sorry.
All right, the only thing I wanted to know is it says here, protect SNAP, which I know is a supplemental nutrition assistance program. Now, if we're writing to protect and strengthen nutrition programs, what are our proposals for that? Or if we're protecting from immediate in the process, you know, like maybe approved, or maybe there'll be, you know, not approved funding cuts and other policies. So specifically, when we reach out to our senators and representatives, what in specific are we talking about other than wheat for more requests to increase SNAP funding to reach more people, as though maybe they aren't getting enough at the time, and maybe there are more people who could fill more voids with this money, and then maybe there are some people who actually don't have information about it. And you can comment to this if you wish.
Yeah, thank you so much. So let's get into that, look at what some of our specific requests could be. So I urge you to protect and strengthen nutrition programs that help children reach their full potential. Specifically, I urge you to, now I'm gonna go back here. This is one of the first asks that Ritter had in their offering of letters campaign. And this is to protect, restore, and secure robust funding for global nutrition programs. So this is the US aid programs that were cut earlier this year. So this is asking to restore these programs so that we can reach millions of children with life-saving assistance. Why is this important? Well, here's some brief points that I pulled from the Bread for the World literature that UNICEF estimates that there's almost 45 million children under the age of 5 who suffer from wasting. Nearly half of all preventable deaths among children under 5 are attributed to malnutrition. In 2023, USAID nutrition programs reached more than 39 million women and children globally with critical nutrition interventions. And if the moral argument isn't enough, the economic argument that every $1 invested in nutrition results in up to $35 in economic returns. Okay, the second ask is to fully fund and strengthen the domestic special supplemental nutrition program for women, infants, and children. Most of us know this as WIC. So that more eligible families in the US are able to enroll and stay enrolled. WIC is a powerful and effective program. In 2024, the program served nearly 7 million participants per month, including almost 40% of all infants in the United States. Most WIC participants live below the poverty line. And again, that economic argument, every dollar invested in WIC saves at least about $250 in medical, educational, and productivity. Okay, now here's what we're adding. Because of the recent legislation, RED has a separate ask or advocacy for SNAP that they ask us to write to our senators to pray, but I'm asking you today to include that in this letter, which is to protect SNAP, which is the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. And we're asking to protect it from funding cuts and other policies that would dramatically increase hunger in the United States. SNAP is our country's most important anti-hunger program. Each month, 42 million Americans depend on SNAP to help them afford groceries. And like Mary was mentioning, about 40% of those are children. This is a brief look at what SNAP looks like in California and nationally. It's just some numbers about the number of residents. This is about 1 in 7 California residents. 5,380,000 California residents are helped by SNAP. Here in California, about 55% of SNAP participants are families with children. Nationwide, that's more like 62%. So there's a lot of families. And in that, these are also working families. So to get to that question about some specific asks, this is taken from Reverend Cho. Reverend Cho is the executive director of RED, in his letter to the House Agricultural Committee.
I think so.
When in opposition of the then proposed cuts that were passed. So these are the specific requests that he's asking in regards to SNAP, like opposition. So we're urging our Senate to oppose these particular pieces. The Thrifty Food Plan, which is rolling back the updates or the increases that had been the increases that have been added to SNAP in 2021. Yeah, and so it would roll that back, and that would take money away from families. The other piece that he's specifically asking us to oppose is the increased work requirements. So there already are some work requirements. This would be adding additional ones, including, I read, for families with children like age 7, right? As if 7-year-olds don't need care. And then a big piece of the cost saving is to shift the burden of the expense to states, right? So the vast majority of state budgets will not be able to absorb a cost sharing percentage of SNAP benefits. So this will result in the benefits decreasing or going away, people not being able to access it.
State support, state per capita assistance to the federal from the divestiture from federal dollars that the state is in. They should have a willingness to provide for their question.
But there are a lot of states that just don't have the money.
Yeah.
A lot of states just don't have the money.
Some
So this
states
is
maybe
turning
would
things over.
sections that other states aren't going to.
That the states don't have the money, and this isn't going to happen.
So that could be part of this rule that is from being kind of effective.
and making it very simple. And they may be doing quite a bit of that work to the process for the people or the families.
Thank you for that input. I'm gonna, just for the sake of time, I'm gonna move on to the last ask that we have in here, which is, as Mary mentioned, to extend the expanded tax credit to the families who need it the most. The child tax credit is another piece of assistance that has really been shown to help lift families above that hunger line. And this changes eligibility enough so that it's really going to hurt the hungriest families the most. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about this, but as you're writing, what are some ways to make a super effective letter? The first that we've done, asks for specific actions. Tell your senator exactly what you want. Second, give reasons for your request and make it personal. Your experiences with the food bank, your people you know, like maybe volunteering with St. Mark's, any particular personal connection or a reason that you're writing. Connected with what we do here at St. Mark's, right? My church is helping by volunteering at the food bank, by housing the homeless, the unhoused folks during the winter shelter. But I also urge you to do the government part and strengthen these pro-family, life-affirming nutrition programs. Make sure to write your name and address at the end of the letter, right? So this is the way that the staffers know exactly that you are represented by this person, and they tally, they write down how many letters are written about from a certain issue. They track all these things, but they're going to pay more attention if they know that you live in their district or their state. Okay. And then here's the last piece, the reason why I told you not to worry about the address at the top so much, because we want to bring these letters to our senator's office. So I'm going to try to make an appointment with the local office, the Schiff in Padilla, so I can drop off the letters. And if anyone would like to go with me, I would love the company. We could go as a small group or a team to deliver these letters in person. Hopefully sometime soon. If not, we have stamps and addresses. I'm happy to help folks put an address and a stamp and put that letter in the mail. We do want to keep track of how many letters were written today so that we can let Red know what we're doing and what we have done so that they can help connect our efforts in their advocacy with other efforts across the country. We have more specific legislation details on this front table. You have sample letters on that table. I see people writing, which is awesome. Are there any questions right now?
Can you put our address on the return, our return address on the envelope?
Yes, please. Put your address on the letter and on the envelope.
Yeah.
Can we go back to the slide that shows, what percentage of work helped by this?
Oh, by Sam, yeah.
Insecure. Where's the stats?
This one?
It might have been the one before it. Yeah,
The big one?
that one. Yeah.
Brad would love to take pictures of us doing this. Is there anybody who would, if I take pictures, who would rather not be? I'll make sure that people would rather not be in pictures.
Should we say that in the microphone?
Yeah.
Brad wants to know that we've done this and they would love pictures of us doing it. Is there anybody who would prefer not being in a picture if I were to take a picture of us?
Good question. How might they use photographs?
I've seen them in And if you look at the website, you see pictures of people in churches writing letters.
Just as long as it's not like a national meeting.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's very important. No, I mean, sure, some stuff. Something to talk about. So, yes. Hi there. Well, you can go ahead and read it. What is it? So write a second one. What I do, I just copy it.
That's what happened. Did you get it from me? That was so low outside, actually.
My only concern though, I don't. Yeah.
See the middle days coming as opposed to another week. Keep your count right.
Right. Senators.
The small things. And a good morning. Saw that white with the store. So that is pretty good turnout. Well, I will. 2 hours to run. Well, I figured there was no way, very nervous.
Yes.
It's amazing now. When there was a wreck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Double flat.
The plus is so.
Don't buy.
I once went on behalf of. Just experimental. And then we had a little demonstration outside of Sacred Gate. And Park Avenue, and I looked up and then it was doing some other sort of particular sense. So we're in some of these.
Such a jam.
Yes, you are.
Well, I just decided I've never done this before. Absolutely. Yes, that's the call. I will go down. Oh.
How are you?
Things are going well. Will. Everything was.
Thank you, Vivian.
So. Yeah. Where?
Yeah, why don't you give her
It looks like lots of good letter writing is happening. Thank you all for this. If you have completed letters, you can bring them up, put them in the basket here, and we'll make sure they get to their proper places. Keep your ears perked too for updates. We may be back in June with more letters to write. Thank you all.